and welcome to Morning Coffee with Pazan Academy. I'm Deanna, and today I want to talk to you about some work that I've been doing for our 7th grade curriculum, and it had to do with heroic perseverance. And in order to put this together, I was really thinking about heroes and what makes a hero. And a lot of times we think about strength, but the heroes for perseverance that I focused on had different strengths. They used their minds, they were cunning, and more than that, they were relentless in not giving up. These heroes powered through and they did everything that they needed to in order to attain their goal. They challenged themselves mentally, also physically, but were just so morally convicted to this goal, what they were doing, what their purpose was, that they, no matter what happened, what was thrown in their way, they continued on. Another thing we do when we think about heroes is we tend to think about mythological heroes or fictional heroes, but the first hero I focused on was actually a hero from real life. He lived at the turn of the last century, and he was an explorer, and he was part of that race to the South Pole in the Antarctic. His name is Ernest Shackleton. And his story is absolutely amazing. He'd been on a couple expeditions down to Antarctica, and he decided to lead his own. So he acquired a ship called the Endurance and got a crew together, and they had this idea of traversing across the continent of Antarctica and making way through the South Pole. The ship that they got was designed to go through ice in these cold conditions, so they headed out in August. This was going towards summer in the southern hemisphere, and they shouldn't have had the conditions that they did. But what they found was that the ice was so thick that they couldn't get the ship through. The ship gets trapped, and they're stranded. Now, because they had planned on going over land for quite a bit of their journey, they had equipment, they had stuff to live off of, but not for the amount of time that they were there. They were stranded, part of his crew, for 20 months without going back to civilization. That's almost 2 years. From the time they left to the time they were rescued, World War I had started happening, and they had no idea what was going on. They were completely disconnected. And it's through Shackleton's Endurance, ironically the name of his ship, but his perseverance, his inability to give up and let his crew just perish in this ice is what saved everyone. And it's an amazing and just incredible story. So I worked on that. And then I started thinking about maybe we should go back to ancient Greece because we're focusing on that in this level. And 2 heroes that really stood out in terms of perseverance were Odysseus, the Greek hero that was in the Iliad. He's the one that came up with the idea of the Trojan horse, but the story of the Odyssey and his journey home after the war, which is incredible. 9 years he tries to get back home and doesn't give up. He has so many foes. He loses his crew. He loses his ship. He's held captive against his will, and all of this stuff is happening, but his goal to get home never leaves him, and that is what drives him. And so he uses his intellect and this unyielding desire to go home, and it relentlessly goes through these tasks over and over to get home. The other hero that I focused on was Perseus. Now, Perseus is a younger man than Odysseus, and through no actions of his own, he ends up on this island with his mother and was raised by this fisherman. The fisherman's brother is a king, and he's a tyrant king. He's not a good king, but he has his sights on Perseus's mother. And so Perseus, out of devotion to his mother and being a good person, wants to save his mother from this king because he's king. You can't necessarily fight him off in this time period, and particularly within this mythology. And so he has to go on this incredible, no one will ever survive task, and that is to kill the Gorgon. The king gives him this task to get the boy out of the way so then he can court his mother without having to deal with the son, who is obviously against the idea. He goes through this amazing journey and once again has to overcome these obstacles in order to accomplish this. Now, both Odysseus and Perseus have gods that are helping them in this mythology, which is why it was so fun to bring in Shackleton, a real life example of this kind kind of hero. So we know that it is possible. If you put your mind to something and you persevere, you can accomplish anything. This is what all these figures have in common. It is just an incredible opportunity to provide this as inspiration for students. So if you're inspired by our videos, please like, share, hit the subscribe button. We have links to our other social media in the description below. I'm going to go have an inspiring day, and I hope you do too.